Hi, I'm Yulia, and this is the News Brief. Today we're going to be talking about, not surprisingly, Trump's administration's halt on weapons deliveries to Ukraine and its implications. And of course, then we're going to discuss it together in the comments so you don't have to suffer alone and I don't have to suffer alone. So please, leave your questions, suggestions, constructive criticism, anything you have on your mind down below because I read all of it and I really enjoy this back and forth communication that we have. Let's go. Contrary to the popular belief, it is not all weapons that are being halted, it's some. And the problem is that these weapons are some of the most important ones. They include GMLRS, and they also include the coveted Patriot air defense missiles. Interestingly, the only place that's riveting out of these news is Russia, and they're saying that likely this is happening because warehouses in the US are empty, and they're kind of killing two birds with one stone with their propaganda. One is they love the fact that Ukraine is not going to be getting those air defense missiles agreed upon by the Biden administration and that have been pledged to Ukraine for a long time, that Ukraine actually really counted on because, these have been pledged to us over a year ago. But also, they're spinning the narrative to say that the United States just doesn't have any supply of any of these missiles and that the production is bad and that the warehouses are empty, and that's why this is happening. Now, the Trump administration is saying that they just don't have enough to support both Ukraine and themselves. Interestingly, this decision comes right after the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, pleaded with the rest of the allied world that we need more air defense systems because of Russia's terrible and evil and completely incinerating strikes on Ukraine that have been happening in the past 2 months. If you have been following this channel consistently and you watch most of our videos, then you will know that almost every Monday we start our news cycle with the unfortunate news of a massive airstrike either on Kyiv or Odessa or Zaporizhia or Mykolaiv or Kherson, or as it was the case last week, it was the west of Ukraine, predominantly Lviv region and Ivano-Frankivsk region. And many people lose their lives in these airstrikes, many civilian people. It's usually only civilian people and rescue workers, and it's just horrendous. And deciding to hold air defenses during this time is one of the most detrimental decisions that the Trump administration could have made. And honestly, I'm not surprised, but I'm just tired of being disappointed. And I think I've said that so many times in the past year alone that these words have sort of lost meaning, because what am I disappointed about if I should just expect it, right? And we all should just expect it. We should all expect that waking up tomorrow is a 50-50 chance, which in Ukraine that rings true since Russia's full-scale invasion in general, but rings a lot more true recently. Interestingly, the Trump administration's statements on the situation are as follows. The Department of Defense continues to provide the president with robust options to continue military aid to Ukraine, consistent with his goal of bringing this tragic war to an end. At the same time, the department is rigorously examining and adapting the approach to achieving this objective while also preserving U.S. forces' readiness for American defense priorities. In layman's terms, and this article explains it further, is that the U.S. is actually trying to stockpile these air defense systems and weapons in general due to a potential conflict with China one day, maybe. And because they're expecting tensions to rise in the Pacific, which obviously for the Trump administration is a lot bigger of a priority than Ukraine is, unfortunately, because for one, the US has production capacity to stockpile these weapons without having to deprive Ukraine of them. The US also reroutes weapons to the Middle East. And when we're talking about an imaginary war with China or an imaginary conflict with China or something brewing in the Pacific, it is not happening right now. And the US has time to actually produce weapons and to build a plan for defenses. So to me, it sounds like an excuse that's a far stretch, and it's just an excuse to not supplying Ukraine with weapons, especially because, you could choose priorities, and if air defense is one of the most necessary things right now, these are not even weapons that are offensive, these are defensive weapons, right? Then you would be trying to limit supplies of something else, not the most necessary number one priority item on the list. We have also seen that Trump's relationship with Putin is quite warm. Trump consistently keeps praising him while he keeps talking down on and to Zelensky. And it does seem like this situation is not necessarily just military oriented, but also personal and ego related and geopolitically related to a degree. Being in Kyiv and seeing this happening, especially as someone who's lived in America for so long, it is heartbreaking. I mean, a lot of the events that I see happening in America are quite heartbreaking lately. I, for one, don't even know what to think and how to react. The one thing that I can say is that I'm not surprised, and that there are so many analysts, there's so many people, there's so many bright minds that are consistently surprised and upset about Trump's administration's actions towards Ukraine. I have been saying this for the past year at least. We need to rely more on ourselves, and Europe needs to step up, and Europe needs to start gearing up to help. Well, not start gearing up, but Europe needs to pick up pace. We need to be in wartime economy, not in the relaxed economy that we are at right now, because this is not a war just for Ukraine and Ukraine's survival. This is also a war for the world order, and we don't want to lose that. I have talked to so many different analysts and experts in the field and military professionals, and all of them say Ukraine is going to win this war. The question is, at what cost? And we are going to be finding out at what cost, because I will say that not having enough air defense systems and not having especially Patriot batteries is going to cost Ukraine a lot more lives than it has already cost, a lot more innocent lives, a lot more lives lost for, quote, no reason, right, for Russia's conquest. And Ukraine has an area of 600,000 plus kilometers, and we would need probably around 30 to 40 Patriot batteries to have effective air defenses over our country. We are operating with 8. And that is already way less, like 1/4 of what we actually need. But also, when we don't have missiles to operate these systems, things get worse and worse. And Russia loves using ballistic missiles. They love using supersonic missiles. They love using cruise missiles. All of those need to be taken down by Patriot. Obviously, Shahed drones, we have munitions that we can buy from other places, and they're taken down by special artillery guns. They don't necessarily require such sophisticated systems, but ballistic missiles do, and cruise missiles do, and missiles in general do. And the worst part about the Patriot air defense systems and missiles to them is that you can only purchase them from the United States, and you can only get them from the United States. Obviously, there are some countries that have some of them, but no one has surplus anymore. So that is a problem, because we're basically stuck where we can't even buy them if we wanted to, because the US refuses to sell them to us, which we have offered the United States to buy those missiles time and again at this point. Zelensky, meanwhile, came out with a statement saying all details are being clarified regarding the supply of defense support, including the air defense component. One way or another, we must ensure protection for our people. And that was said during his nightly address to the nation. Ukraine's defense ministry said Wednesday that it has not received any official notifications about the suspension or revision of the delivery schedules for the agreed defense assistance. And I don't think they haven't received it because, it's not happening. I think they haven't received it because no one cares enough to actually check with us and to actually let us know, unfortunately. There have been a lot of really bad things happening to Ukraine in terms of weapons delivery since the new administration, unfortunately. And it's been tough. It's been tough, and obviously the people feel it, the military feels it, everyone feels it. It's never fun to be so visibly dropped by an ally. And it's interesting when we hear statements like the Department of Defense is trying to work something out to still help Ukraine, but also, understand US priorities and yada, 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 and hearing them not really come up with any new solutions, but only cut and cut and cut and cut aid to Ukraine. And then hearing people online say that Ukraine is a welfare queen, or Ukraine is just like, oh, yay, finally, you know what, you don't deserve this. Well, people are dying, but also hearing it in the background of the fact that actually the full-scale invasion of Ukraine created jobs in the United States in the defense industry. Actually, sending weapons to Ukraine has saved millions and millions of dollars to the US taxpayers, and it did not cost the United States the amounts of money that propaganda and sound bites are trying to tell you that it does. It was actually beneficial for the United States to help Ukraine. All of these things are not being done because it's not beneficial or it costs too much money. They're being done because simply, for whatever reason, it's not a priority and it's not an interest of the current administration. And it's a really tough situation that we are being put in, especially because we have the Budapest Memorandum, and under it we were supposed to be protected, and we constantly keep being let down and let down and let down, and we see people online cheering for the deaths of Ukrainians because, oh, you don't deserve money from the US, while we full well know, and most of the leaders worldwide and people worldwide understand that actually Ukraine is not getting some sort of crazy subsidies. It's all interconnected, it's a cycle, and it works in favor of each country to actually help Ukraine one way or the other. That's unfortunately everything that I have for you for today, and I really hope that you will take something out of this conversation and of this report. I really do hope so. And if you enjoy these reports, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, turn on all of your notifications, like this video, send it to a friend. And of course, if you have questions or suggestions or really anything in your mind, leave them in the comments below. I read all of them and I try to integrate them into my next episodes so I can actually have communication with you guys, not just talk at you. So there we have it. See you next time.